كثيرة، لكن نتائجه الجيدة أكثر. وليس سرا إذا قلنا إننا في السعودية نملك التحدي والطموح والتميز. الجلسة القادمة ستلقي الضوء على هذا الجانب وتأتيكم تحت عنوان التميز التشغيلي في الخدمات اللوجستية والنقل. اسمحوا لي أن أرحب وأدعو وأن تدعو معي المتحدثين في هذه الجلسة. وكيل الوزارة للخدمات اللوجستية في وزارة النقل والخدمات اللوجستية في المملكة العربية السعودية المهندس لؤي مشعبي. رحبوا معي بالرئيس التنفيذي لشركة تجمع مطارات الثاني في المملكة العربية السعودية المهندس خالد الهماش. رحبوا معي بمستشار الرئيس للملفات ذات الأولوية والمشاريع الخاصة في الهيئة العامة للموانئ الأستاذ ريان البكري. رحبوا معي بنائب الرئيس الأول للشحن في الخطوط الحديدية السعودية المهندس بدر العطني. ورحبوا معي بمدير هذه الجلسة نائب الرئيس للاستراتيجية وذكاء الأعمال في الهيئة العامة للطيران المدني المهندس محمد الخريصي. قبل أن نبدأ هذه الجلسة اسمحوا لي أن آخذكم قليلاً إلى لغة العصر، لغة المرحلة، إلى لغة الأرقام. في منظومة النقل والخدمات اللوجستية في المملكة العربية السعودية في عام 2021، إذا أخذنا نموذج واحد لما أنجز للخدمات البرية، فقد تم إنجاز 1374 كيلومتر من الطرقات بين مناطق المملكة. إذا أخذنا من الناحية أو المجال الجوي والطيران، فلدينا 4 مطارات سعودية: مطار الملك عبدالعزيز في جدة، مطار الملك خالد في الرياض، مطار الملك فهد في الدمام، ومطار الأمير محمد بن عبدالعزيز في المدينة. اختيرت أو صنفت ضمن قائمة أفضل 100 مطار على مستوى العالم. إذا أخذنا المجال البحري في عام 2021 تم إطلاق 4 خدمات جديدة للشحن الملاحي للربط بين المملكة ودول العالم عبر مينائي جدة الإسلامي والملك عبدالعزيز. هذا غيض بسيط من فيض كثير من منجزات النقل والخدمات اللوجستية في المملكة العربية السعودية. المزيد من هذا المنجز الذي تحقق في عام 2021 يأخذكم إليه ويعرفكم عليه هذا العرض المرئي بمنجزات المنظومة في عام 2021. أنقل الكلمة الآن إلى مدير هذه الجلسة المهندس محمد الخريصي. أرجو لكم بصحبته وصحبة ضيوفه وقتا عامرا بالنفع والفائدة والمتعة. مهندس تفضل.
شكرا جزيلا. Good afternoon everybody and welcome to our final session today at OPEX Case A, where we will be discussing operational excellence in logistics and transportation. My name is Mohammed Al-Khaisi. I am Vice President of Strategy and Business Intelligence at the General Authority of Civil Aviation. I participated in the development of the National Transport and Logistics Strategy, as well as the National Aviation Sector Strategy, where my main responsibility today is to oversee the implementation of the Saudi Aviation Strategy. I will briefly introduce our speakers and the topic. Then we will have roughly an hour to discuss some of the important themes contributing to the Kingdom's transformation into a global logistics leader. I am delighted to be moderating today's panel with such esteemed panelists to explore a topic of such importance to Saudi Arabia's future development. I am joined here today by Mr. Luay Mash'abi. Luay is Deputy Minister for Logistics Services at the Ministry of Transport and Logistics Services. The Deputy Minister has been appointed for a year now. He sits on the boards of Saudi Cargo, Saudi Exports, with prior experience at Saudi Customs, Suda Development Company, as well as General Manager of Luji Point. I'm also delighted to have Mr. Rayyan Al-Bakri. Rayyan is an advisor to President of Mawane for priority files and special projects. Rayyan has more than 19 years of experience in the services industry across multiple sectors within the maritime and logistics domain. I'm also pleased to introduce Mr. Khalid Al-Hammaj. Khalid is the Chief Executive Officer of Cluster 2 Airports Company, which entails 22 airports in the Kingdom. He is also the Chief Operating Officer for Matarat Holding Company, and he heads the Saudi efforts to corporatize, privatize, and transform Saudi airports. Prior to this role, Mr. Khalid spent 17 years at Saudi Telecom Company. And finally, Mr. Badr Al-Atni, he's Senior Vice President for Freight Operation at Saudi Arabia Railways Company. Badr has spent 13 years at SAR, and before that was a Senior Designer Engineer at ABV Rock Group. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today, and I look forward to your insights and comments over the course of the next hour. Now, to briefly introduce our theme and context to today's discussion, the importance of operational excellence in logistics and transportation. Over the past 2 years, the whole world has experienced how important logistics and transportation is to our health and prosperity, through impacts on supply chains and also through the critical role these supply chain networks have played in the distribution of medical equipment, vaccines, and other goods. Surveys by global corporates such as Visa have found that 3/4 of businesses have experienced global supply chain disruptions due to COVID-related transportation restrictions, with global costs to businesses estimated at $5.5 billion according to JP Morgan. Within this global context, national transport and logistics strategies have become increasingly critical in determining the prospects and the economic progress of countries. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, luckily, has been farsighted in recognizing the importance of transport and logistics, with a key pillar of Vision 2030 focused on leveraging our geographic position, connecting 3 continents through trade and connectivity. Now, Vision 2030's ambition has been reflected in the Kingdom National Transport and Logistics Strategy announced last year, which sets the course for significant expansion among our different transport and logistics sectors as we support Saudi Arabia in connecting the world. To summarize the target of the very ambitious transport and logistics strategy, by 2030, we are on course to transform our transport and logistics capability, including by raising KSA global ranking in the Logistics Performance Index from 49 as a baseline to 10 by 2030, boosting the GDP contribution of the transport and logistics sector to 10%, and increasing annual shipping containers handled by KSA Mawani to 40 million by 2030 as well. Now, as a representative of the aviation sector, I can say that our sector is intensely focused on driving the strategy and towards achieving the targets, including extending KSA international connectivity from 99 destinations in 2019 to more than 250 international destinations across all of the Kingdom airport by 2030. Tripling the annual passenger traffic, we had 103 million passengers in 2019, split 50% domestic, 50% international. Now 2030 target is to have 330 million passengers by that year. Also, regarding air cargo capacity, we have slightly less than 1 million tons in 2018, and we are aspiring to achieve more than 4.5 million tons of cargo by 2030. Besides that, we have announced establishing a new airport in Riyadh. We have announced also expansion in Jeddah airport capacity. We are launching a new airline out of Riyadh where Saudi can focus on Jeddah airport as a main hub, as well as yesterday's announcement where Jeddah airport have announced a partnership with Dublin Airport Authority to help in the operations of Jeddah airport. Now we recognize that our success in achieving these targets will have a major role in creating a thriving economy and a connected, ambitious nation through Vision 2030. Thanks to the collective efforts of this sector, we are also seeing tangible progress in realizing these objectives, including establishment of special economic zones, the first initiative of its kind, including special integrated logistics bonded zone, adding 5,000 kilometers of railway to meet local and regional demand, which will double passenger and cargo capacity, and the Saudi land bridge, which will connect Jeddah to Riyadh and Riyadh to Dammam to significantly increase cargo capacity. Again, also in the aviation sector, we are leading changes to incentivize operational excellence through publication of monthly reports about performance and statistics to incentivize reliability and to also improve customer experience. Regulatory changes are underway across all the transport and logistics sector. And last but not least, the transfer of airport to Matarat, the segregation between the regulator and the operator is a big opportunity to support privatization and commercialization opportunities, which I think Khalid will speak more in details about it. So in summary, there is a huge progress underway right across our logistics and transport sector. Operational excellence is definitely required to achieve the ambitious targets ahead of us. This work is also being undertaken as we experience game-changing developments in the digital technologies, sustainability agenda, increasing privatization effort across our industries, and the renewal of our industry as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. This is why it's great to have the Deputy Minister and the leaders from across ports, airports, and railway to give their perspective on the challenges, opportunities that are being navigated to achieve operational excellence. Today we will discuss the role of operational excellence in logistics services and its contribution to transform the Kingdom to become a leading global logistic player. I will also ask our speakers to identify the main challenges, future trend within operational excellence, their application, examples, and impact on their sectors. Now, starting with the Deputy Minister, Loai, in a nutshell, what does the National Transport and Logistics Services trying to achieve by 2030? And if you can, elaborate more on the logistics side, please.
Thank you, Mohammed. ويعطيكم العافية جميعاً. Very good to be with you. if you look at it and you think about it, as you've rightfully mentioned, there are two parts to the National Transportation Logistics Strategy. One of these two is to serve many other objectives of the vision, be it in the industrial sector, in the agriculture sector, in the telecommunication, the tourism, entertainment, and what have you. All of these depend on a reliable, efficient, with the right capacity logistics services. So that is one aim of NTLS. The second one is really to capitalize on the location of Saudi Arabia, the market available in Saudi Arabia, to play a hub role, be it in transshipment or re-export activities. And here, as the logistics sector in general, we drive that conversation. We drive those numbers rather than support others drive or achieve their numbers. And this is where the National Transportation Logistics Strategy gets its targets from, be it in air, land, sea, or in services. Now, in the logistics services particularly, we look across the end-to-end journey of a cargo, be it in the air or in land or in sea, or in the seamless transition from one to another, and ensure that we've got the right mindset across all borders to make sure that it's reliable, it's efficient, an integrated sector. And this is why the deputyship was established, and this is why we look at all sectors holistically to provide the right service.
Thank you very much, Luay. Moving to Rayan, Rayan, we always talked about how Mawana has a very ambitious target to achieve by 2030 in terms of 40 million TEU. Can you tell us more about the vision for the sector? How are you planning to achieve that target? And most importantly, why operational excellence is necessary to achieve this target?
Well, first of all, the ambitious is really very ambitious. So 40 million is already high. Today, globally, if we look at ports around us, 40 million is considered from the top 1 or 2 globally. And is it something we can deliver? Definitely. But we have to be also very much realistic and practical in terms of how we can be building the infrastructure, the probable capacity, the regulations, the flexibility, the right partnership with private sectors, all of this to enable connectivity to be able to reach the 40 million in terms of capacity, or even hopefully in terms of volume. But there is one thing I want to capitalize here, that if you look at the Ministry of Transport as a whole umbrella, all of us here today is in the enablement sector. So we enable, we facilitate, we look at regulations, we look at best practices, we look at giving the private sector the best chance to achieve what they can deliver to the logistics and the market here. For us in Mawani, we started in 2017 by a plan to corporatize Mawani. That plan took some time until it gets effect. Now I am leading the file to corporatize Mawani as a whole by carving out regulation and having Mawani run, managed, and operated by a corporatization that is owned by the government. Why are we doing that? To create the flexibility element so we can deal in a commercial manner with the private sector when it comes to developing the ports, developing the connectivity of shipping lines, trying to enhance the operational excellence at ports. Being a regulator is a bit hard ball for us to go down that level in operations. So we started that in 2017. Inshallah, the actual start actually was end of 2021, and we will finish the project in before end of 2022. So hopefully by 2023, if things goes well, we will be having the new entity up and running. Now, also in 2019, we have entered into new build, operate, and transfer contracts with private sectors to run the container terminals at Jeddah Port and at King Abdulaziz Dammam Port. And those contracts will have the highest standards of cranes where it handles containers and vessels, the best automated trucks and movements in tight terminals, efficiency and all that. So as for us in Mawani, it's for us to enable those stakeholders in the ports, at the ports, to be able to proceed with their operational excellence at the best maximum level as per global standard.
Thank you very much, Rayyan. I can relate when you speak about the separation between the regulator and the operator. I think the Civil Aviation Authority for the past decades has been operating the airports, building new airports, commercially developing the airport, as well as regulating, which is a conflict of interest and a very complex job to accomplish. But I think also the separation between the regulator and the operator allows the regulator to put the right policies to incentivize such operational excellence in terms of managing the costs, in terms of ease of doing business, etc. I think this is a big area that the regulator can focus on enabling the private sector. Thank you very much, Rayyan. Now moving to Khalid and continue the discussion about aviation. Is there any main logistics initiatives that Matarat is planning to implement within the sector? And what about also the air cargo terminals or establishing special economic zones? We talked about 4.5 million tons of cargo by 2030. How are you planning to tackle that?
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you all. I think one of the most important pillars of the National Aviation Strategy is build-up of the cargo and the cargo facilities and the operations of the cargo. And one of the very important initiatives that we had and set in Matarat is the build-up of the special integrated logistic zone that will be opened and operationalized hopefully within the coming months. The main objective of this special integrated logistic zone is to provide the facilities, the regulation to attract multinational companies to come and establish their headquarters here and their operations here in the kingdom. Also provide them with the more value that they can operate from a pricing structure and also from the facilities within the country, giving them more space and also more opportunities to grow from the country, given that many of the cargo that is within the region comes across the country from different places. This is not only the place where we'll be, it will be established now in Riyadh. We've started the implementation and execution since 2020, and within the coming months, hopefully, we will be inaugurating the SILS zone. Also, there will be zones integrated within the airports. There will be in Dammam, which is King Fahd International Airport, also King Abdulaziz International Airports. The location there within the airport will give more opportunities for international companies to come and work and then operate within the airports, give them better access. And we've shown, as you explained, through the pandemic, the fastest and the most reliable way of shipping cargo, medical supplies is through air. And we need to capitalize along the way on making sure that we have the capacity, we have the location, the infrastructure, and also the ability for international companies to come and work through building the local content and knowledge sharing also this is part of what we want to establish through the coming years, inshallah.
Well, thank you very much, Khalid. Moving to Mr. Badr. Mr. Badr, if you can tell us more about the vision and objectives of the railway industry, and what are the challenges that you see in applying operational excellence within the railway ecosystem?
Thank you, Mohammed. The railway is more of an enabler to many industry. There are many industries that can exist and can be served by railway, and maybe one of the classical examples that we always use is the mineral industry in Saudi Arabia, which form the third pillar of the Saudi economy. The Saudi Railway Company is transporting 1 million ton of mineral product every month from the mines up in the north all the way to the eastern province for the processing plant, and then connecting this to the port for the export. Railway is connecting the industrial city, just like the Sudair industrial city, and soon we are also connecting Jubail with the Dammam existing line between Dammam and Riyadh. Railway is also serving people, serving public. Recently, last year, we have inaugurated the Haramain high-speed railway between Mecca, Jeddah, and Medina. The beautiful thing happening now is the alignment between the different sectors within the Ministry of Transport. We have a passenger station within Jeddah Airport. We have freight connectivity within Dammam Seaport, and soon in the Jubail and commercial and industrial port as well. So I give an example maybe for the operational excellence, which is the mineral train, which is one of the longest train worldwide. It is 3 kilometers long, one train. And that train is consisting of 150 wagons. Each wagon is equivalent to 4 trucks. So one train is equivalent to 600 trucks. So this is part of the efficiency. During the pandemic, for example, it was more easier to go and to supply the goods, foods, medicine to the different parts of the country by rail, where rail exists, because of the number of manpower required to operate that service.
And thank you, Badr. Maybe during the pandemic, I think it's really important that we reflect on what we learned and how do we basically project that moving forward. So my question is, what did we learn from 2020 and 2021, and how do you see the next 3 to 5 years?
The pandemic was, an international crisis, and the people was the main focus of the pandemic, to maintain people's lives. So railway played a major factor in supplying people with what they need in terms of food, medicine, and other goods. The railway is serving Riyadh between Dammam Seaport and Riyadh Dry Port, where the population of the capital of Saudi Arabia. What we have learned that SAR, as part of and cascaded from the NTLS, which is the strategy for the Ministry of Transport, has a crisis plan and part of the strategy, and we have immediately applied our business continuity plan to make sure that people will get their goods and things they need at the right time, and also to allow transportation whenever permitted. So having the right plan for crisis, managing those crises, is maybe the lesson that we learned from the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Mohandes Badr. Mohandes Khalid, the same question, but aviation has been the most impacted sector by the pandemic. How did it impact Matarat? How did it impact the priorities for the aviation sector? And how do you see the priorities also moving forward?
Clearly, it was one of the biggest industry that got hit through the pandemic. And to give a perspective, in Saudi in 2020 and 2021, we've lost combined 60% of international traffic and 45% of domestic traffic. To give it in numbers, back in 2019, the traffic was 102 million in Saudi. In 2021, the traffic was 42 million. So a big reduction on traffic. This impacted the business of running the airport, and obviously the operations and how you want to operate in the airport. What did Matarat do to plan for the future and overcome or try to mitigate any situation that could impact the businesses, there has been a decision change on the operating model of Matarat. Just to explain on Matarat and how it's set up, Matarat is a holding company. Since establishment, it was a financial holding company with subsidiaries operating the different airports that they have. A transition is now happening from financial holding to be an operational holding, where you centralize all the strategic decisions within the holding to make sure that you are heading to the right direction, setting the right agenda for all the subsidiaries, and making sure that you drive efficient and lean governance through all of your subsidiaries. Under Matarat, there are 5 companies or 5 subsidiaries: Riyadh Airport Company, Jeddah Airport Company, Dammam Airport Company, also Cluster 2 Airport Company, and also SILS, which is responsible of the Special Integrated Logistics Zone. Along this portfolio, you need also to enhance efficiencies within the company, build synergies to ensure that you are improving your cost structure, ensuring also that you are planning your resources, especially that you have a finite either funds or people, and making sure that you are utilizing them through the whole organization. All the shared services that you need to build up within the company, making sure also on the technology deployment and the unification of processes and procedures along all the companies. This will entail Matarat to pursue the achievement of the sector strategy, building the capacity on all the airports from less than 100 million back in 2019 to reach to 300 million by 2030. And this needs to be done within the coming 3 to 5 years to answer the strategy requirements.
Thank you, Khalid. Rayyan, do you see an impact of the pandemic on the seaports, and do you see it making it even more imperative to apply operational excellence tactics?
Well, for seaports, it's a bit different. In 2020, we have seen, at the beginning of 2020, we have seen a slow drop in volumes as vessels were already on the way. They have already planned windows to come to ports. So we had a slow element of first half. Second half of 2020 and the whole 2021 were a huge plus for the seaports. Now, at the ports during the pandemic, we have learned that nothing is predictable. You cannot predict the operation, you cannot predict the plans, the vessel calls, the people, nothing was predictable to us. We have also learned that we have to create more sustainable models to keep the efficiency up and running at ports. So for us as enablers, people use the ports to do their logistical services, the logistics needs, being from a vessel, a shipping line, up to a transporter, up to a warehouse service provider, third-party logistics service provider, to the importer and exporter. All of them uses the port to either export or import or do add value inside the port. During that phase, we had lots of issues with people movements, mobility, transportation, deaths, sickness, illness, and all that. In terms of operation, we have managed to work 24 hours. We kept a very clear workflow and lean, as Khalid mentioned just now. Flexibility and clarity in the workflow where everybody in the organization have access to how they should act in a certain type of scenario is a real deal maker in terms of any pandemic that happens, name it COVID or anything else. For us in the future, what we planned now last year, we are planning to have models of sustainable hubs for global companies or local companies to build inventories, even though if building inventory is costly a little bit to companies. However, from what we are seeing today in terms of omitting calls, we have an example today of like the rails and how they faced the issues with the movements. we have now an issue with vessel calls at global ports. So we are having a slowdown in the import cargo. It's not because of a slow consumption or a slow demand. It's because the vessels are calling from Far East to USA and Europe, omitting the calls of Saudi Arabia on the Red Sea because of a higher freight. The freight reached up to $25,000 for a 140-feet container from China to USA. And then you go to USA, you find 50 and 60 vessels, ships, waiting to berth and to enter the port. So it goes up to 50 kilos, 40 kilos in front of those ports, full of vessels. And when they enter, that's the operational efficiency element, and I hope that we can study the case of USA and China when it happens, when it finishes. Because imagine that load of vessels that comes to those ports, and then suddenly they have the pass to go and offload containers, load containers. What is the effect on the port in terms of capacity, yards, and storage? And then the trucks. How many trucks do you need to deploy to move the cargo in and out? So automation here would help a lot. Digitization here would help a lot. However, unpredictable still. So you need to have that right workflow, the clarity, and you need to be very much flexible to achieve the excellence in operation. Without that, you will be rigid in moving. For imports now, we are planning to create those hubs as mentioned. So we signed with Maersk Line a couple of months back. Today we have signed with CMA Shipping Line in Jeddah Port. In the East, we are signing with a new company that will do 3PL, especially for inventory building. And when we say inventory building, it's a new opportunity for local companies to have their inventories in terms of raw materials or in terms of cargo that needs to be shipped, but it doesn't have space in their factories. They go in that hub and they start selling. In Africa, they start selling in the Gulf region, and they start selling in all those areas. But the inventory is not affecting their space. So it's not a cost, it's an investment cost where you can have a capitalization of what you are trying to sell later on by opening new markets, having availability of materials. Today we are having the issue with the availability with some ports. That's why they go to airports. And when you go to airport, you have to charter a flight or you have to have an air freight where it gets 10, 20, 30 times higher cost than the containers. So all that goes into the operational excellence in terms of ports and what you can do in it.
Well, that's a great insight, Rayyan, which brings me to Luay again. Rayyan talked about the role of operational excellence in ports and what does it entail in terms of multimodality, agile and rolling planning, digitization, and what have you. Now, for you in a broader terms, Luay, how do you see operational excellence playing out in the overall logistics and transportation sector?
It's a good question. صراحة, I have a different approach towards excellence in general. Technology adaptation in logistics has always been very high. It's actually been a challenge. Do you apply and capitalize and spend capex on some technologies that might go obsolete in a short period of time? But the pandemic has really showed us a few things that worth looking at. Number one, we've worked so hard on our strategies across the country, and this helped us understand our industries well. We understand our infrastructure, we understand our regulation capabilities, we understand our operational capabilities. So when our plans do not go according to plan, we can make decisions quickly because now we're much more informed, and this is a big part of operational excellence knowledge. Number two is people. I argue the most important element of excellence in operations is the excellence culture among people. And I'll shed some light on some examples on that. But before I go to the examples, it is the clear vision, it is the knowledge, it is the people, and it is the communication. Because of the vision vehicles, our ministries, our government entities have learned to talk a lot to get to those strategies up and rolling, and policies are faster and so on and so forth. Once the pandemic hit, we had data, We had communication tools. We were able to adapt quickly and make changes that were quite honestly inspiring and to the world. And this is where excellence comes in. And I'll give you an example. In customs, we had the challenge of bringing down the custom clearance from about 80-something hours. We wanted to reach 2 hours. The fundamental change we've done is that we've switched the operating model from each border clears to a centralized hub that gets all the data, utilizing technology, to clear for all the different borders. That's step number one. Step number two, there are 39 entities that clear. Ministry of Communication, Ministry of Defense, they all clear some different type. GACA clears the drones, for example. We brought them all in one room, the clearance room, the central clearance room. So now they all speak the same language. We created the morning meetings where everyone has one vision to clear within a certain timeline. So now the vision is clear, the people communication are all in one place. And slowly but surely, we started clearing down to 12 hours, 8 hours, and now our average is 4 hours. Without any significant investment. It's just the change of the way we do business. And mind you, our capture rate of counterfeits or what have you is 4 times higher now. So we've reduced the time, but we've increased the efficiency of capturing illicit goods and what have you because of this change. And there was an idea, I remember, because now they're all in one room. We've got a guy who's close to retire, and he said, why am I in one room but still only clearing for Jeddah port? I want to only clear food, F&B, whether it's coming from Jeddah or it's coming from Dammam or what have you. Because now he's building personal capability to deal with a specific type of commodity. So now he becomes faster because he's used to clearing this good. And he's becoming more effective because now he's very familiar that chicken usually comes from these countries and these are the price ranges. This was a suggestion by someone who's about to retire in that room because now, again, vision is clear, people are capable, communication is there, and the information is available. Once you have all of these together, I think we can really maximize the operational excellence element.
Thank you very much, Luay. Maybe again, Luay, do you see a shift in the logistics and transportation in terms of changing business model, disruptive innovation? And if so, what do you think are the main drivers?
Wallah, shuf, Riyan alluded to it, and I think everyone in this is struggling with this. لأنه there is vertical integrations and horizontal integrations as far as providers of service and logistics. It's a very dynamic sector. Things are changing because of the pandemic, but also because of the consumer behavior. Online shopping numbers are growing dramatically. Being able to inspect all of that and control all of that is a completely different mindset. And globally, the shifts on global trends. After the pandemic, a lot of people no longer are comfortable with having their supply chain handled by faraway countries, and they want to have more zones close to them where they have, more storage and strategic storage done there, and so on and so forth. So I think this is a really fast-moving sector, fast-changing sector. In the past, in logistics, we used to be able to say, this is a freight forwarder, this is a contract logistics company, this is express courier. Now everyone does everything. So I think the challenge in regulation, you don't want to over-regulate today because you want to give the companies some room to innovate, integrate in this sector. And then slowly but surely, you're going to have to go back and start regulating. Again, that balance is critical, I think, at this stage.
Thank you, Abu Umar. Engineer Badr, what trends are you seeing in the railway sector over the next 3 to 5 years in terms of innovation or any other trends?
One of the trend we see in Saudi Arabia, maybe post the pandemic and the railway has contributed to, is the sustainable environment. As we are all aware of the green initiative launched by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and being part of the international community, railway is producing less, 60% less than the other mode of transport. So the railway is becoming a sustainable and safe solution for transportation. What we have noticed that this becomes a very important factor with our customer. We are an enabler to so many different industry, and the green initiative and the CO2 emission is a very important for different industry and become part of their target and strategy. So railway as a trend in Saudi Arabia is maximizing and capitalizing that initiative, and will become one of the mean for achieving the green initiative in Saudi Arabia.
Very interesting perspective, Engineer Badr. I think we'll ask also Engineer Khalid about sustainability in the airport. But before that, let's talk about the Smart Ports Initiative, Rayyan. Speaking about innovation and disruptive technologies, Mawana has recently launched the Smart Ports Initiative. Can you tell us more about it, please?
Okay, so Smart Ports is started with changing the way we work today. So before we come to the Smart Port initiative that we have launched 2 weeks ago, we changed the model we deal with our operators. As you know today from the previous talk we had here, that we are today as a regulator, port operator, port management, asset owner. So we have it all. While it's not the most efficient or practical way to move forward with the Vision 2030 goals and achievements that is planned. So to be able to achieve the smart port, we need to have a global best-in-class players who manage our terminals. Now we had succeeded in 3 terminals in containers, and we are going through an RFP and a conclusion of 8 new concessions for multi-purpose terminals inside our ports in Saudi Arabia. When we have that, in our RFPs and in our documentation, we are requesting those new private sector partners, name it global or local, to adhere to the best-in-class practices in equipment usage, in KPIs, in SLAs, in efficiency, in systems, in digital transformation, in connectivity, in digitization, in the network expansion. So we have it all in place. Now, so therefore, we were very much confident to announce on the Smart Port Initiative 2 weeks ago. We will start with adopting the 5G technology. So we had an agreement, MOU, with STC and their partners, Huawei and Ericsson, where we will go with the 5G technology. Why 5G? Why not fiber optics today? Why not keeping it as is and enhancing? 5G have a better, let's say, I'm not an IT guy, I'll try to make it easy. For 5G has no latency in transferring or transmitting data, where we need that connectivity when we move to automated cranes, automated trucks inside our terminals. And when we say smart ports, to many people, they perceive it as we are going to reduce number of employees, or we are going to affect the way we do the human capital management inside our ports. However, what we are changing now, we are changing the level of engagement with that human capital. Today, it's labor intense. Most of them are from neighboring friendly countries. However, when we move to automation, we can hire local calibers who can deal with the automation from a very special and professional settings, not with lower risk, so they will not be inside the crane. I don't know if you have ever seen a crane, but you either go to a 50-meter height building and you look at it face down. So all the way you are facing down. And so therefore, we cannot attract local calibers to it. So when we move to smart, we can attract them because they will be sitting in control rooms, controlling all the equipments from that room. Now that's number one. Number two, we are fulfilling an agenda of having a smooth interaction between the port community system and the traders. So if you want anything from the port, being smart from entering the port as operation-wise. From entering gates, having the permissions, entering inside, booking your containers, having it released, your interaction with the brokers, interaction with the shipping lines, interaction with the shipping agencies, with the government agencies, all to be from within that port community system, visible, clear, where you can track. And that's something we have a pain today in. If I want to track something inside the port as a customer, it's very difficult. It's either I call the broker, or I call the shipping agent, or the transporter, but I don't have a single source to tell me that your container is offloaded, or your equipment, or your steel, or your cement has arrived, or your car is already on berth, and you can clear it within 2 days, and this is the procedure that you need to do. We don't have it today. So we want to create visibility. To be able to do that fully, we can do it today. But with the 5G, it's seamless. It's smooth. Transitional is very fast. So we hope that we can at least start what we plan to achieve from now, going through different element by element. We will start with the security inside the ports, management tracking inside the ports, the appointment systems, the safety security of the berth itself, entering of vessels, everything is automated, equipment is automated. So that's the aim. So that's in a nutshell what we aim to have with the smart ports. Of course, when you start something like that, that is a bit advanced, the market, some of the players in the market are not up to that advancement in technology. So either shipping lines, let's say container business is a bit advanced globally. But let's go to the multi-purpose, the break bulk vessels, general vessels that moves oil, goods, food, equipment, cars, and all that. When you move to that side of business, it's not very much advanced like the containers. So they have several types of vessels, they don't have systems, the operators themselves, they don't have the advanced technology to accommodate. So the vessel, for example, if we take numbers, container vessels today, when they come to port, we can clear the container vessel, all of it. Let's say it has 14,000 containers, 18,000 containers. The average is between 14 to 16 hours. Before, it was 27, 72, 48, 3-4 years ago. With the enhancement of regulation and systems, we can manage to do that now today with the partnership of our government-related stakeholders inside the port. Go to the break bulk general cargo vessels. We talk about days, 7 days, 5 days, 12 days, because it is moved by the business-related transaction. So they can come and berth, but the cargo is not ready, or the operator doesn't have the capable equipment to handle those vessels. So from going to that technical element, going smart is also challenging for the market when we reach there. So we will be taking it step by step, depends on the market readiness for that accommodation.
Well, thank you very much. Khalid, what do you see the main drivers for operational excellence in aviation? And most importantly, how do you see the private sector role in achieving operational excellence?
Very important, and thank you, Mohammed, for this question. I think civil aviation in the country was one of the leaders on privatizing, I think, businesses, starting from Hajj terminal, after that the Medina BTO model, which is build, transfer, operate. And part of our strategy and our aspirations as Matarat is to partner with the private sector, improve our efficiencies and operational excellence through the better use of resources, the upskilling of our workforce. We know that we need to expand our capacity to 3 times, and by that, our airports is really relying on people and operators within the airport. So increase of traffic means increase also of resources that needs to serve and better efficient use of the airports. So we are, through the change of our operating model, through the build-up of the national champion of Matarat, we want to improve our processes, improve the use of technology in all the airports. We are now establishing different technologies within the airport to improve the efficiencies and كذلك enhancing our passenger journey, customer experience, and different interactions within the different airports.
Thank you, Khalid. Well, aviation has been accused of being the highest carbon emissions sector. Unlike railway, Engineer Badr just brag about how railway is very sustainable and environmental friendly. So in response to the sustainability agenda, in response to the Saudi Green Initiative, what Matarat agenda in this domain?
Rightly said. I think within the airports, and I'm sure everybody is using the airport, certain critical infrastructure within the airports needs to be switched on every time, especially if you are talking about lights, and because of the weather you need also certain electricity consumptions that you need to do. So on Matarat, due to the change in our operating model, we established a clear and a dedicated function for sustainability, and we understand the role and responsibility of airports within the carbon emission and also the ecological impact of the airports and the aviation industry as a whole. And we've started different initiatives, be it using energy efficient consumption, lights, electricity, better usage, different planning for different use within the terminals. The airport itself, if you operate one aircraft or you operate 100, you need to operate the whole airport. But different uses and different timing of utilizing of your energy consumption will give a better impact on the environment. Along the way, we are already developing also a deployment action plan for sustainability in all airports. Just recently, before 2 months, Riyadh Airport and King Khalid International Airport has been awarded an accreditation from Airport Carbon Accreditation Body for standards. And we plan to have this in all of our 28 airports, including also Medina, inshallah.
بإذن الله. Thank you very much. Any final remarks, Mr. Luay?
Maybe on the point of sustainability, I think environmental sustainability is crucial. This is for the next generations. We're in good shape, but we need to think about the future. And there are ways to minimize our footprint, and there are ways, technologies, signs from God of how to regenerate. Our cells die and it gets regenerated, and trees can help, and this is why there is this green initiative. You can sink a coral life and make it flourish. You can be actively supporting a net zero impact. You can't eliminate all the sidetrack, but you can at least reach a balance, and even you can tip it in the right direction with time. And I think this is the right approach. And it makes us, honestly, feel proud of this country. How responsible it is, how we're making investments in the right direction. Our kids will be proud of this, and I think they will carry it forward, inshallah.
شكرا أبو عمر. Engineer Badr, any final remarks? الأخ ريان?
Well, for me, it's just maybe a closure from my side that being within خلينا نقول منظومة النقل. What we feel today is that we are touching all the vital and element things that helps us build the right foundation, even if it's being built, but the right new foundation, let's call it like that, until for whatever is demanded and required for us in the next 10 to 20 years up front. I feel very proud being part of it, and we are happy that we identified the elements, the issues, and all things that we can do for us in the future, which will enable all other sectors, by the way. It's not about us, it's about enabling the other sectors to achieve.
Well, thank you very much. I think this is all the time we have for our discussion today. I enjoyed your insights, your comments, your reviews, and I'm very happy and proud to be within the transport and logistics ecosystem. I think the challenges were very clear as described today. The targets, the very ambitious targets that we have, but I have no doubts with the coordinated efforts, with the vision, people, and communication, hopefully we'll realize the national transport and logistics strategy. So thank you very much. Lu'ay, Khalid, Rayyan, Badr, inshallah we continue our effort and our collective effort towards realizing the targets. Thanks a lot.
شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا لمدير هذه الجلسة ولضيوفه من المتحدثين. أدعو الآن الأستاذة منال الماضي مديرة الشراكات في المؤسسة العامة لتحلية المياه المالحة لتكريم ضيوف هذه الجلسة الحوارية، والذين أدعوكم لتحيتهم معي. التكريم والإهداء إلى وكيل الوزارة للخدمات اللوجستية في وزارة النقل والخدمات اللوجستية المهندس لؤي مشعبي. الرئيس التنفيذي شركة تجمع مطارات الثاني المهندس خالد الهماش. مستشار الرئيس للملفات ذات الأولوية والمشاريع الخاصة في الهيئة العامة للموانئ الأستاذ ريان البكري. نائب الرئيس الأول للشحن في الخطوط الحديدية السعودية المهندس بدر العطني. وتكريم لمدير هذه الجلسة نائب الرئيس للاستراتيجية وذكاء الأعمال في الهيئة العامة للطيران المدني المهندس محمد الخريسي. أبغى أنوه إلى نقطة، وهي هاشتاج مؤتمر التميز التشغيلي على موقع التواصل الاجتماعي تويتر. انقلوا هناك انطباعاتكم وآراءكم وأفكاركم، وشكرا لكل من غرد هناك حتى الآن. سنشاهد وإياكم الآن هذا العرض الذي يختص بما سيقدم في برنامج الغد في هذا المؤتمر. تابعوا معنا. غدا يتجدد معكم الموعد في 9 صباحا. قبل أن تتركوا أماكنكم احتفظوا بكثير من شغفكم وحماسكم واهتمامكم، فالمواعيد المضيئة لا تنطفئ لكنها تمد الضوء ليوم آخر. طاب يومكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.